Yes.
In a black bag? No.
Let's put a different song behind it. Change it up.
I'm thinking out tomorrow morning.
Chairman Valadez, tell us about the significance of this community gathering here today.
Well, we're here to talk about complete streets. What are complete streets? Complete streets are about making our communities, our neighborhoods, our streets more pedestrian, bicycle, alternative mode friendly.
And Chairman Valadez, how does this tie into the broader This Is My Healthy initiative, the health promotion where we're trying to get people to eat healthier and get more active in the community?
This is a part of that. This is a very big part of that. Again, I think as a society, we've been going away from communities where we can walk to the grocery store, walk to wherever, to the drugstore, walk here, walk there. We've been getting away from that. What this initiative is about is, again, about going back to sustainable communities. And by sustainable, I not only mean that we'll have all the resources that we need, I mean about communities where our children, our seniors, our families can go back to walking to the grocery store and have healthy choices.
All right, thank you all very much for coming and joining us this evening. I'd like to introduce the Pima County Board of Supervisors Chairman, Mr. Ramon Valadez, who is going to have some opening remarks.
You know, it's a pleasure for me to be here, and I want to thank all of you as community stakeholders for being here and participating and understanding the importance of what we're talking about today in complete streets. So with that, let me introduce Mark Fenton, and you'll see how non-excitable Mark is.
Take some classes with Ramon later. Let's stop talking about an obesity epidemic, which is the tip of the iceberg and really not the important thing, because we have learned physical inactivity and poor nutrition are independent risk factors. And if we can help somebody eat a better diet and be a little more physically active, they will live a longer, healthier life. Set aside weight entirely. Okay? Their weight will probably also get to a healthier level, but it probably shouldn't even be our central focus. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Interestingly enough, quick side note here, these are two of the three biggest drivers of skyrocketing healthcare costs. Physical inactivity, poor nutrition, what's number 3? Smoking. You put tobacco on there and you've got the big 3 premature killers in modern American society. All the discussion about healthcare, 2-second tirade, and then I'll be done with this. We can talk about whether you believe in a single payer system or a pure market-based system. It is immaterial to the conversation. That is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. I mean it sincerely, until we deal with rising chronic disease rates, which is driving the bus. There's a point here. When we get up to complete streets, it all relates back to this. If you really care about healthcare costs, you better start talking about primary prevention, and you better start talking about our physical inactivity epidemic. If you are an advocate making the case to a policymaker, connect those dots. So I'm going to have to go with what the research says. And the research says if you really want to change behavior at the population level, and now we're coming back toward home base here, so bear with me. We can't just tell the individual, ride your bike more, it's good for you, exercise more, walk to the corner store. And we have to have all the other cues in their life, family and friends, the workplace, their health provider, community networks, the physical infrastructure, and even public policy, all have to steer you in that same direction. And if you think about population behavior changes that we've been successful with, whether it's tobacco use, where we don't just say don't smoke, it's bad for you, we tax the daylights out of the product, and you can't smoke in this building, I assume, right? Can you? No. I mean, you know, I assume. We've really changed the reality in smoking. I mean, we've changed the entire social norm on that. The environment, the physical environment, the social environment, the legal environment, the policy environment. Good. I would argue one of the great breakthroughs, the reason we will not have a cholera epidemic in this country like the horrible tragedy that Haiti is suffering, is because we have a sanitation system, right, that is built in as a part of ordinance. When a new subdivision is built, the health department actually reviews those plans. Think now, reviews the plans to comment and make sure that they meet the standards, if you have septic systems, all those kinds of things. The reason I mentioned, you guys don't do that here? Wastewater. Wastewater? Yeah, so they review, oh, you guys don't call them, okay. But the point is, That's part of ordinance and an institutionalized process. And it begs the question, when they're looking at those same plans, shouldn't they be asking about bike lanes and sidewalks? Oh, wait a minute, that's not in our framework, Mark. Why the heck not? Why not? If you bought my argument to this point, and now you understand why I'm taking you through the thread, because you have to understand each of these steps, and at each point you all nodded your heads. My point is you got to get policymakers to nod their head at every point along the way, so when you get to this point, they can't say, yeah, but we can't afford complete streets. We can't not afford complete streets, because we've got to start to create an environment where routine physical activity happens without people thinking about it. This simply will not solve the problem. Formal structured exercise will work for some subset of the population, but it's probably that 10 to 20% that you saw in my graph a little bit ago. The other 80% of the population, we better build a world where they can get their activity as a part of daily life. That is our only hope to turn the tide on this thing.
Mark, thank you for being here in
pleasure.
Tucson and addressing our group here in Pima County. Tell us about your thoughts about where Pima County is on implementing complete streets, and what does that mean for a community like this?
I've really enjoyed my visit, and I've been to Pima County a lot over recent years, worked with the health department and other organizations and done community workshops. So I have a good sense of sort of the evolution and the hard work that's being done here. There are some phenomenal things happening. There's been some really great effort, for example, around bicycle accommodation. You know, you can see pockets of great systems on street bike lanes, bike trails. In fact, I happen to be on the Institute of Transportation Engineers jury that judged to give an award for pedestrian projects for the Rattlesnake Bridge, which was really an innovation at the time when you guys did it. So I'm aware of the work you've done around trails and things like that. So that's the good news. But I think anybody who lives here would admit you're challenged by a lot of the things that many cities around the country are. You've still got that sense of sprawl, that kind of that oozing out into the surrounding land, the subdivisions out in this direction and the big box malls out in this direction, all of which really invite more car traffic, not walking, bicycling, and transit use. And we know from a public health perspective, that's really an important change that we've got to make. We know that we've got to really start to rethink the design of our communities from beginning to end if we really want to have a healthier populace. And so I think that's what's great about this movement right now. This discussion about complete streets is really part of this bigger awareness around community design. And we know the street is a really important thread. It's kind of, those are the threads in a fabric that hold it together. But also your decisions about land use planning, around even site design, public safety, all of those pieces have to come together to make an environment where a parent feels comfortable letting a child walk to school, where I'm comfortable with my aging mom living in a neighborhood where she can walk to a pharmacy, to a grocery store, or using transit to get to her doctor. And needless to say, where I can hop on my bike to ride to work. You know, we'll know we've got it right when everybody feels that way.